Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is a sewing video. I have made the Itch to Stich Balboa skirt. So if you would like to see more, please continue watching. For see more videos, please give me a subscribe and then also a like. So I've made the Itch to Stich Balboa skirt. This is the handkerchief hem version. I did iron this skirt, but then it's just been then chucked in a pile, so it's now gone super creased as well. I'll have to insert some pictures of me wearing it because it's next to impossible to actually show it properly on the camera. So this fabric is super soft. I actually asked for some fabric for Christmas from my sister, and I didn't really give too much direction apart from I wanted either jersey or some kind of sweatshirting type fabric, a couple of meters if possible, and I did say not yellow because I don't really, oh maybe I said not red. Well, I don't want either of those colours really. So she went with pink, which is a fairly safe choice because most of my clothes at this point are pink. Although, to be fair, a lot of them are gifts from her, so maybe she secretly loves pink. Anyway, it is incredibly soft. I did actually see it online on my daily searches for sweatshirt fabric because I've got a new addiction of just searching online to look at pictures of sweatshirting fabric. And it looks like it's a John Loudon, if that's how you pronounce his name, fabric. It's a pink, it's kind of like a peachy pink or maybe a salmon pink. It's probably not coming up at all accurately on camera. For the lighting here is fairly terrible. It's winter. And it also has these like black stripes, although they're not super straight lines, and they also come in different groups as like you know, 2 lines, 3 lines, 2, 3, 2, 3, but then further down there's like 5 and 4, so they're kind of slightly inconsistent, but you know, that's nice. I'm not complaining. It's just when I got it I thought it was super soft. It is fleece backed sweatshirting as well, so it's really soft on the inside and also like nice and warm and snuggly, which is nice for winter. And I did think it was just asking to be made into a top, or I mean sweatshirting fabric, it wants to be a sweatshirt, but I do have like quite a few pink tops, pink jumpers at this point, and I was like, well, I mean, you know, there's never too many pink jumpers, is there? But I probably could do with more bottoms, and I ummed and ahed about trying to make it into joggers, but I thought I've not made joggers and I'm not sure I have enough fabric and I've not tested the pattern out, and the stripes prove kind of or provide kind of a challenge in terms of getting them straight when they're not actually straight lines anyway, but also pattern matching. And I just thought that stripes on trousers, especially because my legs are fairly curvy at this point, they're not going to stay straight, so then sometimes it can look a little bit odd. So I sort of chickened out of that. I'm not sure I would have had enough fabric anyway, to be honest. I had 2 meters, so I went with decided to try and make a skirt, and I thought a nice warm longish snuggly skirt for winter would actually be really nice. So I did a search online for skirt patterns that use knit fabric rather than woven, and I did find that they did seem to be in the minority, and as I sort of predicted or expected, most skirt patterns seem to be for woven fabrics. But I did find the Itch to Stich Balboa skirt. I've not used any Itch to Stich patterns before. I'm struggling to pronounce the name. But I kind of heard that they were alright and like fairly easy to follow and stuff. This is a pretty easy pattern, I must say. There's not too many technical elements here. The Balboa skirt gives you, I think this is 13 different options, because you can do them in knit and then you could also do them woven with like a centre seam. So you have options like an A-line, a straight, a maxi skirt, a flounce, and a ruffle skirt, and then the handkerchief hem. And I decided that the handkerchief hem looked nice, and I also thought that might be quite interesting with the stripes, because although the stripes, the fabric was cut with the stripes going horizontally, when you wear it, because of how it kind of hangs down and drapes on the body, it looks like the stripes are actually curving down to the sides, which I just thought was like quite an interesting visual effect, and so I thought that was quite fun. So that's the one that I went for, and like I said, it's a fairly simple pattern. So you have a waistband front and back, and then you have just the front and back of the skirt. One slight thing that slightly confused me, I don't know if anyone knows and can leave it in the comments, is that the front waistband piece was slightly bigger than the back waistband piece. Is that just because they expect you to have more tummy up front and then your back is more flat? Because I guess that kind of makes sense, except that where things sit around my natural waist, well, I do have more tummy now these days, to be fair. So maybe that's just why. But it did throw me because I think I cut out 2 of the front waistband pieces, I must not have realised that the back one was different, or that there was a separate back one, and then was looking at them thinking, this isn't quite matching up how it's supposed to. Luckily I cut out the big one twice, and so I could just trim it down to the size of the back one. But now honestly, when I put it on, I can't tell the front from the back, so I need to put a label in or something. I keep just putting it on whichever way around, and it doesn't seem to make that much difference because it's got elastic in the waist. The waistband did prove to be my undoing. So although you have a waistband piece that is different depending on the size of the skirt that you opt for, and I think I went for a size 6 because it's American, and so that'll be a size 10 UK, possibly. I can't actually honestly remember now, so I hope I've written it down somewhere. No, I don't know. Hopefully I've written it down somewhere. There isn't actually a set measurement for the amount of elastic that you need, and it just tells you to do it the size of your waist. And I don't know, that was not clear enough for me. I need more hand holding, clearly. And I just made that piece of elastic too big. And I think also I'm used to, when I sew elastic, got loads of elastic here. I'm used to when you sew elastic, you kind of take the ends and then you like overlap them, so you lose like a couple of centimeters, and that's what I was expecting. I was thinking, right, I'll cut it with some seam allowance added on essentially, but they don't do it like that. You take a small piece of woven fabric, 2.5 centimeters or about 1 inch by 1 inch, and then you sew the elastic onto that piece of woven fabric. And it is nice because it means that the waistband is, or the elastic in the waistband is going to sit more flat and it isn't going to be as lumpy. But I do think that it's a little bit faffier to actually sew it in place, and also it means that you have to have a piece of woven fabric that's 1 inch by 1 inch, which I did, and I guess most sewers will have a little scrap. But if this is your first project and you've only bought fabric to make this, and you've bought the knit fabric to make the knit skirt, and then it tells you you need a tiny piece of woven fabric, I don't know, and that's a bit irritating. But anyway, that was part of the problem. I probably didn't measure my waist properly, and then I added extra seam allowance on, and then when I made the skirt and it looked all nice and neat and beautiful, the waist was just far too big and it was just sliding down. I could still wear it, but it would have sat around my hips. I didn't really like it like that. It would have annoyed me and I just wouldn't have worn it, and I was really kicking myself, and I couldn't decide whether it was that the elastic was too big or that the entire skirt was a size too big. So I decided to just cut some off the elastic and hope for the best. It's kind of annoying though, because the way that you put the elastic in the waistband is that you actually sew it in place all the way around. It did, oh, that's the bit where you sew, will it show up? That's where the woven fabric that I've sewn the elastic into there. And it did look neater than this the first time I did it, but I had to unpick all of that, cut a bit off the elastic, sew it back in, and I did actually pin it all in place and try it on with the pins. Risked my life to try it on with the pins, and it seemed okay. Sewed it in place, tried it on, still too big. Had a small emotional breakdown at that point, unpicked it all, sewed it back on again for the 3rd time. Well, I trimmed the elastic smaller and then sewed it back in place for the 3rd time, and then it finally did fit. And thankfully it was just the elastic and not the entire skirt that was too big, because that would have been just so frustrating. So it now does fit, but I will say that the waistband was looking a lot neater the first time I sewed it than the 3rd time. And I also need to just probably add maybe a few more stitches to sew it in place. I've done it on this side, I've like hand stitched it down, but not on this side. It seems like they were in place the first time around. Anyway, that was a nightmare, but that was my own making, I really think. I just didn't measure it properly, and I added just extra on because I was paranoid about it being too small. So I was kicking myself. It was incredibly frustrating, and it's now not as neat on the inside as I would have liked it. I didn't really finish off any of the other seams. They're not going to fray, and they were just trimmed like really nice and straight, so they're not really finished off other than that, but it looks fine. And then I did get confused as well at the kind of point of the handkerchief hem. I transferred the markings from the pattern onto the fabric, which I just do in a regular pen, so it's there forever. I need to get one of those washable ones. I'm just a terrible person. But when I was looking at the picture, I think they'd like zoomed in to the very, very end of the point, and I thought it was a much bigger section of fabric, and I was ready to just chop off half of the skirt practically, until I realised, and you just trim off a tiny little bit to create this like nice neat point on the handkerchief. And thankfully I realised, I knew it looked wrong, and I was like googling how you do a handkerchief hem, and I watched loads of videos about how to make a handkerchief skirt that were completely irrelevant and not related to this pattern at all, until I finally realised that I was just looking at the picture wrong and it was zoomed in. But I am a bit confused though still as to, like, I copied this line, you probably can't see it, there's a line there that I copied from the pattern onto the skirt, onto the fabric, that we didn't then use at all. And that's what was throwing me, I think, because I was trying to like cut along that line, which would have been like a chunk off the end, would have looked really weird. So thankfully I did realise that it seemed wrong, and stop myself, but that did kind of confuse me. I think possibly the picture didn't match the pattern piece in terms of the markings, and that could have been perhaps slightly clearer. So I feel like it was 70% me, 30% them, unlike the waistband, which was like a 100% me. The other thing is that I did not pattern match, so the stripes do not match down the side, which is a real shame because it looks so much nicer when you can do that. But I needed 2 meters of fabric just to cut the pieces out. I had 2 meters of fabric, so I just did not have any to match. I did sort of try and play around with it, but because the stripes are inconsistent, like I said, sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3, they're also not exactly straight lines. That made it a lot harder, but I had like half a centimetre extra to play with, so I couldn't do it. One thing I could have done is I could have pattern matched the waistband, which I didn't even think about, and that was something that would have been possible to do. So that's a shame that I didn't think to do that. But overall, this was a nice pattern with really nice fabric, really nice soft warm fabric for like winter, but like a pop of kind of colour and fun for winter. I now need to start wearing it. I've worn it out once and I need to start wearing it a bit more as well, get some wear out of these makes. But I'm pretty pleased with that, and my plan is to make more of the Balboa. Battery died. Battery died. Right at the end, yes, my plan is to make more of the Balboa skirts, but perhaps the flounce or ruffle version in perhaps a slightly lighter, more kind of drapey fabric. So that's on my very long list of things to do. I have about 15 other projects first, so we'll see what happens. But yes, if you would like to see more, please do subscribe and leave me a like and a comment.